Kicking it with KeKe. Kicking it with KeKe. Full of personalities. Switching up the storyline on God, we making history. Writing books, changing lives. One day at a time. Put your problems to the side. Enjoy yourself. Free your mind. Kicking it with KeKe.
Hello, you guys, and welcome to another episode of Kicking It with KeKe, Life, Love, and all that other shit. I am your host, KeKe Chanel. When I'm not writing books, I am a certified life coach that specializes in personal growth and development as well as mindset. Today, I'm joined with a very special guest, and I will do like I always do, give my guest the opportunity to introduce herself. So, guest, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are?
Hello, everyone. My name is Latonya, or Tanya, whichever rolls off the tongue easiest. Most call me Tanya. I go by La Jaguar.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for
Um,
having me.
so we're just gonna get into it. We are talking about you today. We're talking about your story, anything that you would like to share because we all have a story. Some people are ready to share theirs, some people are not. Thank you for coming on to be transparent for our listeners and anyone to get some inspiration, empowerment, to impact their life in a better way so we can operate as our best self as we're here. Like while we're here, we only get one life and we should do ourselves a favor by living it abundantly, right?
Amen to that. Yeah, we should be sharpening one another, uplifting one another, helping each other up life is like I tell my kids and others around me, life is full of challenges.
Mhm.
So not don't make everything a challenge.
Absolutely. I love that. Don't make everything a challenge. You starting off with gems off the gate. So just go ahead and share a little bit with us about your story. Just tell us about it.
Okay, well, it was very inspiring the other day when you were speaking about it, and you asked, like, have anyone said anything or gave a word to you that saved your life? And that really hit me because this is one of my favorite stories to tell. Traumatic, very traumatic. I remember it like it was yesterday. It will never leave me. However, it had a very positive ending and is the example and the epitome of lifting another person up. You may not be able to give them money, other things, but just simple words is enough to save someone's life.
Absolutely.
And it all started in second grade. My father is Black. He's from Louisiana. My mother is white. She's from Tennessee. So you're from Louisiana?
Yes, I did not know that part.
Yes.
Yes.
So yeah, I got family. I have too many family in Louisiana. Like when I was single, I'm married now, but when I was single, I made a deal with myself that I will not date anyone from Louisiana or Texas
Oh, wow.
because my family tree on my dad's side is so large
You'll
that
never
I'm
know.
pretty sure almost everyone is somewhere in my family.
Okay. Got it.
But with that being said, I was born in 1979, so I'm in my 40s. But going through the 80s, the interracial marriage was frowned upon. It was
Mhm.
not. It's not something to talk about.
Right.
So therefore, I had a lot of racial issues towards me growing up. All kinds of racial, even today sometimes, but not so much. But a lot of times I grew up with not Black enough for us, so you're not in our category. You're too dark, you're not in our category. All kinds of stuff. So
Hmm.
you don't act this way, you don't act that way, you don't
Hmm.
look like this, you don't look like that. All kinds of things. So I struggled a lot with racism at an early age. But what hit me the most was my second grade teacher. I like affirmation,
Hmm.
and for me, like if I know someone's pleased with me, I feel better. Not much of a people pleaser these days, more of a
Right.
God pleaser, but
Hmm. Hmm.
but I wanted everyone to like me and I wanted to be likable. So Her name is Mrs. Davis. And so back then, as little girls, we'd wear patent leather shoes and dresses all the time with the leggings, the tights. And so I remember hearing her one day saying how she loved to hear the clickety clicks of everyone's shoes. And I said, oh, this is from a little patent. I wore my shoes and I would walk around the classroom and I'd make a point to pass her desk, and she didn't say anything. So I'd make a point to try to walk past her desk again. And I think after the third or fourth time, she was like, okay, sure, I'll sit down. And then she knew my background. So I would make straight A's in class. I was always a straight A, B, honorable student, whatever. But I would get, straight A's in her class. But when it came to my report cards, I always had D's and F's. And so my parents, they were very involved with my school. So they noticed, okay, there's a problem here because you make all these good grades here, but you're getting really bad grades on your report card. So they had a teacher parent conference in which my mother almost got kicked out of school because I don't know. I don't really remember much. I just remember the teacher making a racial comment to her, and my mother went over the desk, and my dad had to pull her back.
Wow.
But basically, what the meat of the conversation was, it was just highlighted on the interracialness. So that's kind of where I got the idea. Oh, okay, this is why she's treating me like this, because of my race.
Right.
And that was hard to hear as a second grader because I was 7 years old. And having to experience and hear this and watch so much commotion over it, and to see my report cards come out with bad grades. Well, nonetheless, the report cards is what mattered. I failed second grade and had to be put back into second grade. And so at this point, I was shattered as a person. My confidence was shattered. Everything was shattered because she didn't like me. She didn't want anything to do with me. She always gave me bad insults. And then I ended up repeating the grade again. So I was pretty crushed when I started over with second grade again. Well,
you had to have her as a teacher again?
Huh?
You had her as again? She was your teacher?
No.
Oh, okay.
God.
Okay.
Thank God. No.
Yeah.
No. That's thank God.
Right.
But I did have another teacher. Her name was Mrs. Sherwood. And it's funny how we operate. We don't remember everyone, but we always remember the ones who gave us a negative impact or a positive impact.
Absolutely.
And I didn't really say much. I'm a pretty outgoing person. I'm pretty loud. But at this point I wasn't. And I don't know what kind of vibes I gave off. But the teacher noticed after a while, she noticed, I don't know what she noticed, but she noticed I wasn't me. I guess she might have seen that something was really wrong. Maybe she saw it in my eyes or something. I don't know. But throughout the years, she spent a lot of extra care on me and building me up and lifting me up and giving me, the courage to speak out and to do things, to do this. And she made me feel like it is okay to be you, and that, we're all made this way, and you are you, and you are fine. You're beautiful. So she spent a lot of extra care with me, and I ended up leaving second grade, wanting to be a teacher, which I did get a degree in teaching. I got degrees, 3 different degrees, but one of them is teaching.
Okay, great.
And, at that point, I always looked up to her and wanted to be like her, like to give encouragement. And this is before I even came to Christ at the age of 28. But I always, was inspired to be just like her and to be there for others.
Right. We have to have that. We have to have that. And I hate that you had to go through that, especially at such a young age when you don't really know what's going on, but you can pick up on something. You just want people to like you. So walking past her desk and her not saying anything. I mean, my son, I experienced that with my son living here in Louisiana. He was very friendly. He loved to wave at people. And so I have a neighbor, and she would walk every morning, and he would be and say, hey, how you doing? And I know she heard him because we standing right there together, and she never acknowledged him. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to tell him not to speak to her, but that just done something to me. And one day I was like, I know that you hear this child is speaking to you. Are you that mean to deny him hello? And she kind of looked, but she still never said anything. Yeah, she still never said anything to him. She just kind of looked and she kept going. So, You choose your battles, and I just
Mhm.
choose to not deal with you at all because that is just ignorance at that point.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So,
And the level of ignorance today is just as high.
oh, what?
It's almost a different ignorance, but
It
it's
is
just
very
high.
like, I don't know. It's like a different breed.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is it's amazing. So when did you like, I know you said something about being not this enough or not this enough. When
Yeah.
did you know who Tanya was though?
Um, I've always kind of marched to my own beat and
Mm-hmm.
drum. I've always been like that, I
Love
guess,
that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was kind of raw all the way until I met Christ. Like I was pretty raw. Like this is how I am. You can keep it moving or what. I could
Yeah.
care less. So
Yeah.
I was pretty raw. Like
Uh,
now, God has smoothed the edges a little bit.
humbled you a little
We still
bit.
got some sharp ends here and there, but
Right.
for the most part.
And that is, I mean, that's amazing because some people, I know people who didn't know who they was. They gravitated toward one side and didn't try to understand the other side because that they spent more time with this side versus this side. It's just a lot to go into that. Now, hearing you say that you just was kind of like, hey, this is who I am. You either accept it or not. I love that. And more people should, you know, embrace that mentality because it keeps you from becoming a people pleaser are
Yeah.
conforming to something that you just really not. And I believe that it's individuals who you have to make yourself who you are, not the color of your skin, not where you come from, not how much money you have in the bank or whatever. It's all about being who you are, like inwardly for me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Hmm. Now
So
I wasn't like complete in that, like it
uh,
wasn't. There was a lot of things about me that needed changing, still needs changing. Like I have a temper that goes from 0 to 100 in like 1.2 seconds, and
mhm,
like I do before I think. So there's still sections and areas that God's working with me with, but there's some parts about me that I was just like, no, it has to change, but I really didn't know how to change it because I was bullied a lot. My brother
mhm,
and I, we were bullied quite a bit, not really having a category to be in and
mhm,
everything. And then my father was in the military, so we moved every 3 years, and I was very, very tiny for my age. Like, I mean, when I was 14, I looked like I was like 9, 10 years old. So I was a little skinny mini, short, skinny mini. I always looked like 10 years younger than myself. So I was always the little runt of the class, I guess you
uh-huh,
could say. So, but again, I'm a fireball, so I was always in fights. I mean, every time I turned around, it was a fight, and every time my father got stationed somewhere else, I literally remember telling him, "Oh my gosh, Dad!" I'm like, now I got to prove myself again to
yeah,
these
all
people when I
right,
move again.
yeah,
Like, I always had to get tested, and I always had to like prove my stance before people would leave me alone. And so
mhm,
I grew up with a chipmunk on my shoulder like all the time because if I didn't walk around like I'm about to beat you up, then people would mess with me.
right,
And I remember, I want to say it was ninth grade, all year round, this dude in front of me never said a word to me. And it was towards the end of the school year, right before the bell rang for the class to start. I remember he turned around. He says, "Can I ask you a question?" And I'm like, "Okay. Why do you always look like you want to murder someone?"
oh wow,
I mean, this kid has not talked to me all year round. Like he
yeah,
just sat in front of me, and that was the first and only thing he ever said to me. And I was like, "I'm not. Like, I'm just chilling. Like, what do you mean?" I kind of felt bad because I was like, "What do you mean?"
like,
He's
do
like,
anybody else notice this about me?
so he's just like, "Okay," and turned back around. That was the end of that. I never heard else from him, for the rest of the school year. But I heard that and I was like, I don't know. I just got used to walking around like if you mess with me, you're
Mhm.
gonna get served.
Did that kind of alter your chip though? Did it kind of lower it a little bit? Him saying that to
When
you?
he said that,
Uh-huh.
I wanted it to.
Tonya's like, okay, I hear you. I want to do it, but I'm still about to keep my
I
guard
mean,
up.
I wanted to. That's one of the parts that I didn't like about myself is that I was like a fuse. Like you lit that fuse, there was no turning back. Like I would see red, and then I had to ask questions afterwards. So what happened? What happened? Like what just happened? You
What just
know,
happened?
girls like you threw a desk at the other girl. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Oh, you throwing disc out there, Tonya? That's how you was rolling?
Oh yeah,
She
yeah.
said,
She
oh,
pulled down on my nerves. It was my senior year.
oh, you was over it for real. I know. I know.
But see,
I mean,
I had promised myself ninth grade. I had promised myself. I said no more fights, no matter what. I'm gonna talk myself out of it. I'm not gonna fight. It's not worth it. And so, you know, when people would say something, you know, my bark would be like pretty harsh because, you know, I can, you know, and it's like the Bible says, your tongue could literally like break down people. And that's my strength. But I didn't like that that was my strength, but that was my strength. Like I would just rip a hole in you because I didn't want to fight you. So instead I just humiliate you, like utterly humiliate you, like just roast you to death until you were like charcoal.
right.
And so like in ninth grade, I was in RTC class. We're all like playing around, and this girl just kept la 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 from across the room, and I was like, "Listen, you know, just do you, let me do me, leave me be."
Right.
And so she just kept pushing. So I just snapped and threw my desk across the room at her. She ran out crying.
I mean, you gave a warning, but you know, we do not condone violence on this show. We just want to put that out there. You know, we are just sharing Tonya's story, but sometimes your mouth need to be silent. Like when someone tell you to be quiet, just shut the hell up. Like, you know, just
like they're telling you for a reason.
They're telling you for a reason. You know, it'll save you from humiliation of being beat up in front of everybody.
Wow. Tried to tell her. I mean, I didn't hit her. Just threw a desk at her, but I didn't hit her.
That would know better.
Those little L-shaped desks.
Wow. So how, you know, since that experience with your second grade teacher, when you with your first second grade teacher, how had that shaped you as an educator? Because I know you said you have 3 degrees, but one of them is in education. How did that shape you as an educator? How do you conduct yourself, you know, with your students?
Well, I think that literally shaped to me, like it made me realize, it made me very compassionate, and it made me like I empathize people very, very much, so that like if I see someone cry, I'll cry because I just like I feel their pain, you know.
Yeah, you're an empath
I may not know what's going on, but I see your hurt, I see your burden, and it will make me cry, and I will give them the biggest. I can't tell you how many times I've walked up to a stranger and given the biggest hug ever, and I would just say, my mom used to tell me that when you cry, it cleans your soul, and I'll be like, just let it out.
Yeah.
Between me and you, let it out, and then you just like they'll bawl, and it made me very compassionate and like also defensive towards them. Like if I've been in Walmart when someone was really mean to somebody else, and I just jumped into it, and I was like, oh, okay, you got jokes. And you know, I've told cashiers that one time, and they were very apologetic to the person. I was like, who are you to talk to somebody this, to be this mean to somebody? Like, who wrinkled your underwear? Like, what's going on here? Like, we all have issues. So don't put your burdens on someone else, because you don't know what they're doing.
Absolutely.
And I can't tell you how many times I've come across someone that's like, you know, literally I was going to go, not for me, but some people that I've known that they have talked to, you know, and befriended, and that was the day that they were going to commit suicide, like literally walking home with books to commit suicide, and bumped into that person, and that person like was like, hey, come play basketball with us.
Yeah.
And later, after being friends for a while later, that dude's like, that day you bumped into me and dropped all those books and picked it up, that was the day I was literally on my way home to go commit suicide.
Wow. And see, I tell people all the time, you have to be mindful of how you treat people. You never know where they are in life or their mentality, and you can actually save someone's life by being kind. You know, and someone is always watching, whether you see them or not. They're always watching your actions anyway. They want to know what you're gonna do, or see what you're gonna do, how you handle yourself in certain situations, because they, you know, they may look up to you and you may not know it. Or
Exactly.
if you're a parent, you have kids that they watch, they listen,
Hmm.
and they take in.
Yeah, and it's so true. And thank God, because when I came to Christ, uh, that's a whole nother testimony. But when I came to, boy,
Yeah.
when he left the 99 for that one lost one, I was that one lost one.
Oh,
Because
wow.
I was in a very dark place when he came after me, and I didn't want to hear him whatsoever. But he still followed me and got my attention. But when I came to Christ, that just sharpened everything that I felt inside. And I wanted to replace the negative thinking, not negative, the aggressive thinking. That's what I
Mhm.
want to say. The aggressive thinking, and switch it for like what is going on in that person's head. When the Bible says in Ephesians that we're not fighting against flesh, we're fighting against the principalities that are influencing them.
Mhm.
And that's really people. I think that's it's an underrated statement,
Right.
because that's a deep thought right there. Like, we're not fighting against that person. We're fighting
Mhm.
against the influences behind and around that person.
Absolutely.
And if we get to that person first, love pierces darkness.
Yes.
And if you sit here and you love on that person, they start to think about all the things that they are dealing with, and that slowly that pierces them. It plants the seed.
Mhm.
And even if it doesn't work that moment, I have seen where I have planted seeds in people, and years down the line, that seed grows,
Mhm.
and you can see the fruit of that seed.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, anyone who's listening, what would you tell them if they are on the verge of giving up, on the verge of just giving up on someone? What would you say to anyone listening about giving up on someone or themselves?
Reach out if you can. That's number one. Reach out to someone that you trust, someone you're closest with. Um, Not necessarily someone you trust that has the same kind of feelings as you, because
Mm.
when you rub on the next person, you guys are rubbing on each other. Go to someone that is your voice of reasoning when you feel lonely, or when you feel alone, or when you feel like you need that person next to you. Cling on to that person and reach out to them. That's number one, because if someone doesn't know, they can't help you.
Right.
So that's the first thing. Whoever you trust, tell them, talk to them. And second of all, if you are a believer, I would say to please pray and fast. So many things happen when you fast. When you fast, you are filtering out the noise of the world, and it is a straight connection between you and God. You're getting nothing but
Absolutely.
straight, pure download from God. You hear him through
Absolutely.
everything.
Mhm.
If you're not a believer, I would go to someone who is a believer, or at least has even a higher power that can strengthen you positively. Um, I'm a believer, and I want everyone to be a believer,
I am
but I'm not
too.
going to push anything on anyone, because
Absolutely.
that can actually turn them the opposite way. As you
Yes.
said, everything can there are very different and very okay. All of us who are believers, we all have different gifts,
Yep.
and there are some that speak the truth. There's some that evangelize and will pull you in and tell you everything you need to know, teachers who do that. And then there's people who work in the streets with service. And then there's people who do with actions.
Mhm.
And then, of course, people who do a combination of all. One of them, I believe, is actions. Because I found for me that when I do with actions, people gravitate and they will ask me questions.
Mhm.
For instance, I wear this Star David. And I can't tell you how many times this has opened conversations at work, at like other stores, like anywhere. And people are like, oh, I like your Star David. Are you Jewish? And immediately we're into religion before
Before,
I even.
yes.
And I'm like, no, I'm not Jewish. Well, how come you have that? I'm like, because Jesus is a Jew and I support Jesus. And they're like, so you're a Christian? I'm like, yeah, I guess if you want to put a label on it, but really it's more of a relationship. I have a relationship with him. Like, I
Mhm.
talk to him,
Mhm.
When people think that I'm talking to myself or anybody, that's cool. I'm talking to my God.
Mm-hmm.
We're having a
Mm-hmm.
one-on-one right now. We talking.
Yes. Love
And
it.
but they're like, oh, that's so. They're like, so why you wear it? I'm like, because it opens up for people to ask without feeling pressured,
Pressure.
without
Mm-hmm.
feeling against the wall,
Mm-hmm.
without feeling, that someone's trying to push anything, an agenda
Mm-hmm.
on them. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that is smart. That's
Mm.
smart because you have people ask you. So that way, there's people that I have friends who are Muslims. I have people who don't even believe. And a lot of times they will come to me and they're like, hey, I'm going through a real dark time right now. Can you pray for me?
Right.
And I'm like, you can pray for yourself, but I'm going to pray for you this time. Next time, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to ask you to say whatever it is. I
Mm-hmm.
love you, Lord.
Mm-hmm.
That's a prayer.
Right.
Nothing fancy. Jesus, help me.
Yes.
There you go. When people say, oh, this, that, and the other, there's a dark spirit around, they don't like the word Jesus. I know
Right.
you're Muslim. I know. I dare you to try it. Say Jesus. Watch them scatter.
Yes.
And so she's a Muslim, but she will scream out Jesus. She'll be like, I will call on Jesus.
See? See, I love it. I love it. And you have some, and that's a creative way of sharing your faith with people who may not have one.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Or
love
have been
that.
turned away for the wrong reasons.
Absolutely. And that happens so frequent.
I see so much of it, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
When I see others that are responsible for showing a different light than what it's really supposed to be, I get upset because I'm like, you're the reason why they're not following God.
Right. Absolutely.
You condemning them is not what they need.
Right.
It's not what they need. They need to know through our actions that God loves us. So therefore, we're supposed to love because we're representing. We are kingdom ambassadors. We are frontline soldiers. So literally, we're the ones that are in contact with them.
Right.
You're the officer. We're the soldiers.
Right.
What happens on the front line determines what happens beyond that.
Right. Absolutely. Perfectly said. And not everybody grasped that concept or even adapt that mentality. It's at some point it's all about the flesh and it's self. And so they're just trying to get what they can get or get themselves closer to the kingdom. And was like, okay, as long as I'm closer, I'm not worrying about nobody else. And that is like, you shouldn't want to be like that at all. No. So, Tanya, I appreciate you stopping by and kicking it with me and sharing your story. I believe that more people need to hear it, especially kids, because we're not with our kids all the time and they're with their teachers majority of the time. And people need to know that treating people a certain way because of their race or their religious background is not okay.
No.
It's not. It is not okay. So to the listener who is dealing with that, trying to figure out life and religion because they may be biracial or whatever, what advice would you tell them in this moment?
It's difficult because what necessarily worked for me may not work the next person. I love my family. I had a great childhood, but I knew I was a black sheep. I knew I was different. I was different. I was set apart for a reason. I didn't know why. I spent a lot of time in. Can I relate? I can relate to those who are out there who are listening. I can relate. I spent a lot of time crying because I didn't understand not that I didn't understand who I was. I just didn't understand what my purpose was.
Right.
I didn't understand why I felt different. I spent a lot of time in my closet, in a dark closet, sitting in the corner of my closet crying because I felt I was different. I knew I was different, but I didn't understand why. But all I can say is keep good company around. Number one, that's all I can really say is keep good company around. Keep positive company around, good company around. Because those are the ones that you remember all the memories, the good memories. It says in the Bible that our greatest memories are what encourages us to keep going. When we have memories and we think about our memories and we think about the people who gave us love and we think about the good times we have, it sets off endorphins for us to feel good. And when
Mhm.
you feel good, you don't feel you're always going to have our burdens. We're always going to have our problems. But there's a reason for everything. We have these good memories and these great memories for a reason.
Mhm.
I really can't give anything other than just keep good company around and just
Yeah.
honestly talk with God, because God listens and he will talk to you. You may not hear a voice, but you will see signs around you if you just sit back and you just literally think about all the God winks. I call them
Yep.
God winks because you don't realize how much God is operating around you for the good. And if you just take a moment to sit in solitude and
Mhm.
marinate in silence, you will hear your thoughts. You will hear God talking to you. God will speak to your heart. The things you hear that are positive, that's God talking with you. That's the Spirit talking with you.
Absolutely.
And just a lot of people are scared to be in quiet, like in peace, like in quiet. It's too quiet. It's disturbing. But I feel like it's more of we're scared to hear what we're going to hear. We're scared to know what could be said to us.
I believe that so much because I know I love to be, just in silence. I love to be at home. You know, I am good with myself. I think I've always been like that because you was in your closet in the dark, but I was under my bed.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the bed. My mama said that
Yeah.
I was always under the bed, and when think like something didn't go right or people was around that I didn't feel comfortable around, I would go. That was my safe haven.
Yeah.
You know, in today's age, we call self-care, self-love, like do things that make you feel good,
Yeah.
and spend some time alone. If you cannot be alone with yourself, that's a whole nother problem.
Right.
Like that's a
Yeah.
whole nother
And
problem.
it's hard. It sometimes can be hard. I'm not even gonna lie, because there was a time when God purposely separated me from my friends, from my family when I was living in South Florida, and I got moved about an hour away from everyone. My friends no longer called on me because I just was either too far to come chill with them, or I just didn't have the money because I was working hard trying to keep bills paid.
Mhm.
But I spent 2 years there, and I spent a lot of time crying and being by myself. And I eventually learned that God put me that way so that I could spend more time with Him and understand what it is to be by myself, to be in my inner peace, to understand more about myself and to be happy
Mhm.
with myself. Because you
Absolutely.
can't necessarily be happy with others if you're not happy with yourself.
That
And if you're
yeah.
not happy with yourself, I have a couple of friends who have certain problems. And I said, listen, if you're not happy, change it.
Yes.
Change it. You have the power to change it. It may not be right away, might not be overnight. Change it. Say to
Yes.
yourself, you know what? I don't like this about me. This is my problem here. You face yourself and you have to change it if you don't like it. Change yourself until you get to a place you are happy with yourself.
Absolute. Oh my God, Tanya, you preaching today, girl. And I hope the listeners are taking it in because you're dropping some amazing information, positive things, things that you can do every day, to better yourself, to better your situation, mind, body, and spirit. But it starts with you. You have to make sure that you're happy first before you can pour happiness into someone else. So I thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much for sharing your advice. She's just giving off her experience and what worked for her and things that she would tell someone close to her that she loved to do. So her sharing that information with us today, we are very appreciative of that. And so if anyone wanted to connect with you because you're awesome.
Thank
Where can
you.
they find you at? Where are you located at? Where you hang out on social media?
Well, I'm primarily on Instagram. I like Instagram a lot. A little less politics, a little less negativity, a little less
Right.
bullying. So I do like to be on Instagram quite a bit. And so it would be La dot Jaguar, like the animal, Jaguar underscore. As I said, that's my nickname. It's actually a meaning that God a personal meaning that me and God has went through a couple of years ago, and ever since then, it's stuck with me. So it's the Jaguar, La Jaguar.
Mm-hmm.
So it's la.jaguar_ on Instagram.
And all of this, all of her information, you know, her handles will be in the comments. So you make sure that you look at those. And so what's next for you? What you have going on? What you got coming up?
Well, I am now working on a different type of certificate. I have an associate's degree in teaching and in special education. I have a bachelor's in criminal justice and administration, and then I have a minor bachelor's in cybercrime, and I just finished doing a boot camp for cybersecurity. So I have a certificate for that, and now I'm working on getting a certification for IT as well.
Okay, you got a lot going on. I love it. I love it. I love it.
My mother, she said, you just don't want to stop school.
Listen,
I
ain't
like
nothing
to
wrong with
learn.
learning. Right.
never
That's
feel
what I was about to
learn.
say. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody. So on a personal note, I love to ask my guests this question. If you, as your now self, can tell your younger self anything about what we talked about today, what would you tell her and why?
I would tell her not to rush anything in life. A lot of mistakes I've made just because I rushed, because of whatever ideal thought or dream that I had. I'm not saying to rush your dream or not rush your dream. I'm saying take your time and understand what it is that you really truly want. Is it the idea that you're in love with, or is it the dream? You know, like just anything you do in life, sit on the idea for a while before jumping on it. I'm not saying don't do anything, because I'd like to dip my toe in everything. But before making huge decisions in life, I have learned to ask God and wait for an answer. I don't get an answer, I continue doing what I'm doing until I get an answer, whether it's yes or no. But I don't do anything without God's permission, because I never want to tread territory without his hand over my life.
Absolutely.
You know, I am #God, because nobody can defeat him. So if I go the direction he needs me to go in, I'm always covered.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. So any closing remarks you would like to leave listeners with today before we get on out?
No, it's been great being on here. I really do thank you for having me on. I love to try to help others. I feel like if others can learn vicariously, you will get forward in life faster. I've learned to live and to learn vicariously through others and their mistakes, so that I say, okay, what not to do.
Right.
And you will excel quicker because you don't have to go through these same mistakes.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure having you on. I'm glad we connected and we're able to get you on the platform.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
yes.
It was amazing that night. Always, always. So thank you for kicking it with me this evening. I will be in touch soon to let you know when this will air. If you're watching on YouTube, you get all of this good stuff right here behind the scenes or whatever. You know, I don't edit those videos, of course, because, you know, what's better to see the behind the scenes stuff, right?
Right. Yeah. No, I love this. Thank you
Right.
so much for having me on. I feel very honored.
You're welcome. Anytime, anytime. And you guys have been listening to another episode of Kicking It with KeKe, Life, Love, and all that other shit. I am your host. Until next time, y'all be great.
Amen.
Hold up.